This podcast discusses real-life experiences that may include topics such as grief, trauma, medical or mental health challenges, and other emotionally sensitive content. Please take care of yourself while listening, and if at any point in the conversation you feel overwhelmed, it's okay to pause, step away, or skip this episode entirely. While some of our guests are licensed professionals, the Holiday Survival Podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered medical, psychological, or therapeutic advice. If you are struggling or need support, please reach out to a qualified healthcare provider or mental health professional. Now, let's begin. The holidays can be the most wonderful time of the year, or they can literally be the worst. That's why I'm bringing back the Holiday Survival Podcast, the show that gets real about a season that isn't always merry and bright. If the holidays bring up stress, grief, pressure, complicated family dynamics, or just big emotions, you are in the right place. My name is Erin Billings, and I am your host. In each episode, we'll have honest conversations, share practical tools, and offer hope for anyone navigating the messy, beautiful, and emotional reality of this time of the year. No forced cheer, no sugarcoating, just real stories, real support, and reminders that you are not alone. I hope that you enjoyed the show. Welcome back to the Holiday Survival Podcast. While the world talks about joy and celebration, many of us are quietly navigating family drama. Today's guest is Kiki Mullican, also known as the Trauma Drama Mama, and she helps survivors of toxic families feel seen, validated, and empowered to reclaim their lives. In this conversation, we're going to explore how to navigate family dysfunction, recognize red flags like narcissism, set emotional boundaries, and even find moments of humor and hope amidst the chaos. Whether you're healing from past trauma or simply just trying to survive this season with your sanity intact, this episode is for you. So Kiki, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. It is a pleasure to have you here with us. Why don't you introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, so that our listeners can get to know you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on your show, Erin. This topic is perfectly timed and so needed. I'm Kiki Mullican, but most people know me as the Trauma Drama Mama. I create social media content that helps people who have experienced narcissistic abuse feel seen and validated. I talk openly about the stuff that most of us grew up not knowing how to even put into words. Things like coercive control or scapegoating. Things that can make someone spend years wondering if they really are the problem. My background is in abnormal psychology, human behavior, and neuroscience. So I love breaking down the how and why of these tactics. And I'm able to put it into relatable terms because, unfortunately, I've also lived through the abuse that I talk about. I grew up in a toxic family system, and I repeated that cycle over and over for years. My goal is to help people feel a little less crazy, a little less alone, and to start recognizing the patterns for what they really are.
I love that. I've been following you for a while now, and I can definitely see those things about you, and I really appreciate the content that you put out. I know that it is helping a lot of people.
Thank you.
Many of the followers that you're speaking of, they come from toxic or chaotic families, and they grew up feeling unseen. What happens when someone realizes, wait, my childhood wasn't normal? And what should they do with that realization?
It's a great question. Unfortunately, there's not just one universal aha moment. For some people, they always knew something was wrong in their family, but they didn't have the words to describe it or very much support from anybody else, if any. So when everyone around you insists it's all normal and calls anyone who disagrees crazy or too sensitive, it's easy to wonder if it really is all your fault. And most of us didn't learn words like coercion or triangulation when we were growing up. So we blamed ourselves for how we felt. When people hear those tactics explained simply, you can almost feel the relief of someone realizing that there was a pattern of abuse. So for a lot of people, That awakening happens when they hear someone like me describe what abuse actually looks and feels like. And it's very validating, but it can also be devastating because now you also have to come to terms with the realization that the things they told you were love were actually abuse. And an unfortunate but pretty universal side effect of these huge realizations is wanting to prove it to your abusers and anyone else who doubted you. So we try to show them the articles, show them the videos, show them all of the evidence. But that almost never works. No matter how much proof you bring, they're going to keep doing what they're doing because that's what they want to do. They are benefiting from the toxic system. They don't want to look within and do the hard work to change. And to be fair, they are still inside the perceived protection of the system. So even though they might know about the gaslighting and manipulation, they still believe that's just how families work. And they've also been conditioned to contribute to and to protect the system. So yeah, you can't convince an abuser to stop abusing. I know that's a really heavy truth, but it's one we all have to face in order to move forward. You can't make them take accountability. You can only stand in your truth, know that you are not crazy, and build your beautiful life from there. But that first feeling of, holy moly, that really wasn't normal, is the start of everything. That is where the healing begins. And in that moment, you want to just slow down and breathe because your brain is going to want to run in a whole lot of different directions. But healing goes much more smoothly with a bit more calm and a whole lot of patience. People also need time to grieve what they didn't get or maybe won't ever get. Awakening is not only freedom, it's also loss. But that grief is not a setback. It's a part of facing the truth and making room for something better.
That is so true. And a lot of what you said are things that I have experienced. So you're preaching to the choir, sister. And a lot of times the holidays, they will reopen those old wounds of abuse whenever you've gone through the dysfunctional family holiday events, dinners, weekends, trips, all those things. What are some practical emotional boundaries that someone can use when they're heading into triggering family gatherings?
Yeah, as you know, the holidays can be like the emotional Olympics.
True.
Yeah, as soon as you walk in the door, it feels like you're 12 years old again. So make sure to set boundaries for yourself before you go. Decide things like what personal information you're willing to share, how long you're willing to stay, and what you'll do if someone is triggering you. Just for an example, if someone is pushing you to share something that you don't want to, you can just say, I'd rather not talk about that. I'm way more interested in who made that bangin' mac and cheese. And then you just flawlessly redirected the conversation in a complimentary way. Now you can silently remind yourself that you don't owe anyone any further explanation. You can start slipping away to find out more about that mac and cheese. Another idea is if things get too heavy, you can excuse yourself to the restroom or outside for a breath of fresh air. Maybe you can even forget something in your car, wink, wink, and then you can take a little extra time later when you need it to go get that forgotten item. Also, you should know that you can just leave early. I don't feel well works just fine. You do not need to prove that you can handle the chaos or that you are entitled to leave. Your boundaries don't even have to be told to anyone else except yourself. They can be your secret protection of joy that's just for you. The goal is not to control anyone else's behavior. The goal is to protect your own peace. So no one needs to know how you're going to move next. Before the event, decide on one small, simple grounding technique. Maybe just a short mantra like, I choose peace, that you can repeat silently to yourself. Or it could even be a physical technique, like putting your feet flat on the floor and wiggling your toes. Having a single technique to return to gives your nervous system kind of like a lifeline when you need it. You also want to plan for something to comfort you after the gathering. It could be your perfect playlist, a warm and cozy drink, or a call with a supportive friend. Anything like that can help your body reset so you're not carrying the weight of that event with you. Think of it like emotional hygiene. You wouldn't come home from the beach and then sleep in your clothes. Your emotions deserve the same care. And if you do, as so many of us do, end up saying something you wish you hadn't, give yourself grace. You are practicing new skills in an old, stubborn arena. The goal is not perfection. The goal is to choose yourself a little more each time.
I love that. I think that those are a lot of really good ideas. I even do some of them myself. I don't even have a toxic family.
But sometimes it's the work party.
Exactly. The work party, the church party, the kids' school functions.
Exactly.
You can put those practices into place anywhere.
Yes.
I've always made sure that I have an exit plan.
Yes.
No matter where I go. Especially if I'm already like not feeling it and my social battery is on low.
Which most of us are.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of us are operating consistently on a low battery. Those are really good practical things that people can implement now. I love that. So let's talk about narcissism, because narcissism is a trendy word in our society. And I want to make clear, we can't just go around and diagnose people with narcissism. Like, that's not ethical. But how can someone recognize red flags in relationships or in family dynamics or even in work partnerships? And what are some healthy ways that people can protect themselves without guilt?
That is such a great question, Erin. And I want to also remind everyone that we all have narcissistic traits. That's just a part of being human. But when we're talking like we are now about narcissistic abusers, we're talking about the people who are psychologically or emotionally abusing others, and often even physically abusing others. One of the quickest ways to see if someone leans more heavily on those narcissistic traits we all have is to tell them something that they don't want to hear. Set a small boundary, say no, or even just offer gentle feedback. Watch their reaction. If they twist your words, try to make you feel guilty, or turn it into a personal attack, that is a huge, glaring red flag. Try just the small no test. Say a calm, simple no to a minor request, and watch for fallout. In healthy relationships, a small no might be disappointing, but it's accepted. In abusive relationships, a small no often triggers a huge storm. That storm will tell you more than words ever will. And boundaries really are a great way to learn to protect yourself. But if I'm being honest, they don't often work in abusive situations. Saying, I'm going to walk away if you raise your voice, doesn't help when the abuser follows you down the hallway, yelling and escalating. Saying that you're going to go for a drive to cool off doesn't help when the whole time the abuser is blowing up your phone, or even worse, calling others to say that they're worried because you're out here acting crazy and you've just sped off in the car. So when we talk about boundaries, we have to look at that reality too, because safety and boundaries have to go hand in hand. And it's helpful to create as much safety for yourself as you can. Safety might just mean limiting how much you share and keeping your private life private. But safety also might be making sure you have your own transportation or a friend who will check in on you regularly. Unfortunately, that guilt that comes along with setting boundaries is a part of the conditioning. Then the guilty feelings aren't because you're doing something wrong. They're because you're doing something different from what abusive people trained you to do. The guilt is not a sign that you are wrong or bad. It's often a sign that you're growing and healing. And if the guilt gets loud, name it out loud. It's conditioning. Saying out loud, "This is conditioning, not my conscience," will help your brain separate the training from your values.
That's such good information because I know even recently for me personally, I've had to set boundaries with clients. There was huge blowback, and I've done a lot of healing work over the past 5 years. And I think old me probably would have reverted back to shrinking and being like, you know what? I'm just going to do what they want. I'm going to walk on eggshells and I'm going to just let them continue to use me as a doormat. But me in my healed state is like, no, we're going to continue to put up our boundaries, but do it in a kind and loving way. And I'm not going to feel guilty about it. And it is possible. It is definitely possible, but we just have to rewire our own brain to know that it's not our fault that we're dealing with this, and we should not feel guilt for having to set boundaries.
Exactly. That is exactly correct.
I love it when I'm right.
Yes, I know that feeling.
It's like, clock that.
Well, when you've spent so much time being told that you're wrong, you're remembering things wrong, everything you say isn't as smart as everybody else, those types of things, when you hear that, oh, what? I really am right? It's yay!
And sometimes that validation can be such a blessing to those of us that have been in abusive relationships, because I'm still recognizing signs of narcissism, and I'm much faster at it now that I've gone through a lot of therapy for narcissistic abuse. But it still takes you time because of all of the conditioning and the brainwashing that we've all been put through.
And that's the perfect word, brainwashing. That is exactly what it is, brainwashing. But we can rewire our own brains, like you said. It's really hard and it takes a really long time, but that's what we got to do.
And I like that you brought that up because it's a really good point. You can start implementing a lot of these practical tips that Kiki's giving you, but it takes time to heal these things. I know for me, I started my healing journey back in 2021. I'm still not fully healed, but I'm well on my way. And it takes years of practice, but it also takes years of intentionally doing the work.
And I would even go so far as to say, are we ever all the way healed, or are we always healing?
I think we're always healing something new because new things will pop up and then that'll trigger a series of events or a realization that, okay, maybe I've got some work to do in this particular area. At least that's been my experience.
That's exactly it. That is exactly it.
Something that I've heard you talk about in your content a lot is about reparenting yourself. And I love this idea. I've had to do it myself in some ways, mainly because I had an absent father. My mother is fantastic. She's the best human in the world. I call her a golden retriever because she's just one of those people that loves everybody and everybody loves her.
I love that for you. I love it.
I'm so thankful for that. But I also had a father that tried to kidnap me.
I don't love that part.
Yeah. Not to trauma dump anything, but like
no, feel free. That's what we're doing.
But that's why a lot of times I have had to go in and do some of this reparenting work. And for somebody that's new to that idea, what does that look like in daily life? And what is one small habit that can start the process of reparenting?
It really is such a great topic. Reparenting yourself is really hard, but it is also one of the more joyful parts of healing. Reparenting is about becoming the type of safe, nurturing adult that you needed as a child and giving that to yourself now. It doesn't have to be some big fancy routine. It's often just seemingly simple things like eating something when you're hungry, or taking a break instead of pushing through. It's also things like reminding yourself that you're not in trouble or that making mistakes is a normal, expected part of life, and it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It's about learning to give yourself the comfort and compassion that you have always deserved, even though it's going to feel really awkward at first. And a small way to start is to pay attention to your self-talk. A good rule of thumb is if you would not say it to a scared child, then don't say it to yourself. And if you would say it to comfort a scared child, then say it to yourself over and over again, no matter how silly it feels. At first, the silliness feeling goes away. Eventually. Over time, it does. And over time, that one shift can change your whole world. And if you, like most people, feel like this stuff isn't going to work and you feel really embarrassed doing it, that's totally normal. Most of us were taught that self-compassion equals selfishness. So reparenting proves the opposite of that. The kinder you are to yourself, the more capacity you will have to live, love, and choose well.
I think that's really great. Like I said, I've had to do it myself, and it can feel a little cringy at first.
Yes, so much. When I first started doing things like pumping my own head up, if you will, I was like, who do you even think you are? This is so dumb. This is not going to work. And then when it started working, I was like, what?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's going to feel a little awkward at first, but once you get into it, you're going to notice how much lighter you feel.
Yes, absolutely.
I love that. So we've talked a little bit about an obligation throughout this, and that's something that I would say most of us struggle with whenever it comes to dealing with toxic family dynamics and toxic work environments and all that kind of stuff when they choose to distance themselves. How can someone release that guilt and stand in their truth without feeling like they're the villain of their family's story?
It really is such a relatable struggle. And that guilt alone can feel unbearable. Most of us were raised to believe that love equals loyalty, no matter what it costs us. And when we finally take a step away, our nervous system freaks out and starts like screaming their words, trying to convince us that we're abandoning them. That built-in guilt was always a part of the abuse. That's a part of the conditioning, the brainwashing. You are not betraying your family by healing. You are breaking the cycle of abuse that they can't or won't break. The people who care about you want you to be happy, even if that means it's away from them. Unfortunately, they will almost definitely rewrite the story and make you the villain. It is infuriating, but trying to stop it is only going to leave you exhausted and back to that feeling of crazy. The smear campaigns have also always been a part of the abuse, and the chances are slim to none that you're going to change the mind of anyone that has already believed the story so far. Here's the thing, though. You don't need their approval to create your beautiful life. You are the main character of your story. You are the author and the hero of your story. And you can also write for yourself your own little closing statement, just like one page, just for you, that names what happened and why you chose distance. You never need to show it to anyone. It is for your nervous system. It's for the valid part of you that still feels the need to explain. And please remember, the role of villain is assigned, not earned. People who benefit from your silence will always prefer the story where you're the bad one. This is not your responsibility to correct their script.
You just preached a whole word right there.
Sometimes I get a little intense.
No, it's definitely needed though, because people out there listening, I've had conversations today with friends that are just telling me I am dreading the holidays. I don't think I'm going to go back home because I just don't want to deal with the drama. Like, I have other things in my life that I need to take care of, and I just don't want to deal with it. And it is true that we will be named the villain.
Yes.
And personally, I've gone through that. You are always going to be the villain in someone else's story.
And I wear my villain title as a badge of honor, because if I'm that special that I'm still taking up that much rent-free space in your mind,
I'm on the same brainwave as you, because you know what? If me standing up for myself makes me a villain, then I'm going to wear that crown proudly.
That is right. That is right.
And I think that there's actually healing in that.
I agree.
Because what that says is I've outgrown the chaos and this is who I am now. So how do you help survivors move from just surviving the trauma and all of the heartbreak that comes from that into actually building a joyful future?
Yeah, you're talking about that moment of, who even am I? And when you've spent years in chaos, you learn to mold yourself into whatever keeps you safe. When that chaos is gone, it can feel like there's nothing left but like a big question mark. One of the first things I did for myself was to just start trying new things. If something looked fun or interesting, I'd give it a go. Even if it turned out that I hated it, so what? I never had to do it again. And I knew there wouldn't be anyone yelling at me for wasting money or time. And honestly, I often love the new things I try. But even when I don't, I still get to learn something about myself. So watch the movie you never did because they said it was dumb. Eat the food you've always wanted to try. Take the class. Dance to the music. Wear the outfit that makes you feel good. Every tiny experiment helps you separate who you were told to be from who you actually are. For so long, you've been bending yourself into shapes that keep other people comfortable. When you start exploring and following those small sparks of curiosity, that's how you'll start to learn who you are. And that's where real joy starts to come in. Think of it like you're making a collage. A song you love counts. A recipe you love counts. A style of rest that suits your body counts. Identity grows from a million small, honest choices. And you can even keep a little discovery list where you write down anything that makes you feel happy, calm, interested, or alive, even if it seems tiny. And then you can review that list whenever you're feeling lost, which we will feel over and over again. But over time, you'll start to see themes and preferences that are uniquely yours, not leftovers from survival mode. You can even give yourself seasons. You don't have to lock into a whole new personality forever. I might be dating myself here, but you could be posh in autumn, baby in spring, scary in winter, and sporty in the summer. You will find more about yourself when you stop assuming that you should already know.
Love the Spice Girls reference.
I had to do it. I had to.
All of us millennials can get down with that.
I'm Gen X, so I caught them that end. But yeah.
They're a bridge.
They're a bridge at the end of the 90s there.
Yeah. 90s music is the best era of music.
80s too.
80s are good too, but like 90s, man, they hit their stride. And I say this as a professional musician.
And you're the expert. So now that you agree with me, I feel like I have expert evidence that that was the best music.
Absolutely. Last question of the day, because we're coming to a close here, but for anyone that's out there listening who feels broken or misunderstood or exhausted by their own healing journey, especially during the holidays, what's something you want them to hear right now?
Wow, that's actually kind of a tall order. First, I want everyone listening to know that you are not alone and you are not crazy. What you went through was real. The way you feel is valid. You are not exaggerating. You are not too sensitive, and you are not overreacting. The people who used abuse tactics to control you want you to believe those things about yourself because that's what keeps the cycle going. For anyone who's working on these things, I want to remind you that healing is not linear. It's a whole lot more like a spiral staircase covered in spider webs. You're going to circle back to the same pain over and over. But each time you do, you'll gain more awareness, more peace, and more comfort. So if you're feeling old emotions again, that doesn't mean you've gone backward. It just means you're still climbing. You are not failing, and you are not falling behind. To everyone out there listening, I promise you, you are doing better than you think. And if you cannot feel hope today, please borrow mine for as long as you need to. It is possible, and you are worth the time it takes. Got a little choked up there.
It's okay. It's okay. Listen, there's a lot of people that need hope right now. That's why we're doing this whole podcast series. There's such a need for hope right now. And so thank you for sharing that. I have loved this conversation, but we have definitely come to the end of our time together. How can our listeners connect with you?
It really has been a powerful conversation. I have enjoyed it so much. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and TikTok as the Trauma Drama Mama. There are periods in between each word.
We'll make sure to put the links in the show notes. But thank you so much for being here, Kiki. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
I have enjoyed this, and I hope everyone out there listening has enjoyed it as well.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Holiday Survival Podcast. If this episode helped you feel a little bit more seen, supported, or sane during the holidays, it would mean so much if you'd leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and tap the 5-star rating on Spotify. It's a simple way to help more people find the show, and it truly makes a difference. For resources, links, and next steps from today's episode, just check out our show notes and be sure to click the follow button on whatever platform you're listening to this on so that you never miss an episode from this season. Remember, you don't have to navigate the holidays alone. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next episode.